Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a video on choosing the RC for you. Now, there are several classes of RC, and I'm going to be primarily going over racing. So, in racing, at most tracks, there's short course four-wheel drive, buggy, stock and mod. There's buggy four-wheel drive, and there's sometimes short course buggy, which we have at our track, and beginner sometimes, depending again on the track. And that's for off-road tracks, obviously. So, and sometimes stadium truck. Now I'm gonna be going over the classes that I run real quick. So, I run four-wheel drive short course with my Tekno SCT 410. This is a four-wheel drive short course truck. So they're quite heavy. They're obviously four-wheel drive. This one is like an 8th scale buggy pretty much, but it's got a short course body and bumpers. So these are generally quite expensive, but there are ways to get into it for cheaper than a lot. But alright, so let's go to the next class real quick. The next class is buggy. So this is my stock buggy. I'm actually selling this one and getting a B5M, but so stock buggy for my track at least means you have to have a 17.5 turn motor. And what does this mean? So 17.5 turns means that the winding inside the motor has 17.5 windings, meaning it has kind of in the middle torque and speed. The lower you go windings, the higher speed because there's less resistance, but the higher you go, the more torque, less speed. So the highest are generally 55 turns, but those are only for crawlers, so you wouldn't use them for racing. And there are companies that go down to 1.5 turns, but again, those are for high speed rather than actual racing. Most of the time we go from 17.5 about as low to 6.5. That's the range generally, but this is a stock buggy, so it has to have 17.5 for our track at least. Go to your track and, see whatever one is running. This is a B4, Team Associated B4. I'm getting a B5M, but that means it's mid-motor, so the motor's here-ish. Let's go to the next car. The next car is a dirt coming off of it. A Team Associated SC10B. Now, this is a class that's not very old. It's actually rather new, and in a lot of tracks, it's not very popular. This is a short course buggy. So, it's the size of a short course truck in dimensions from width, length, etc. But it has the body of somewhat a buggy. So I have Snoopy in mine, and at my track we have this thing where we have heads and painted bodies like our figures. So I've got Snoopy, someone else has one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, one guy has Mario, and I believe there's Hulk also. So I went with Snoopy because that's what I had laying around and I like Snoopy. But these are essentially, this one at least, these are essentially two-wheel drive short course trucks, which is pretty much, this is an SC10 with just a different bumper, different body, different bumper, shock tires a little bit different, etc. But these are essentially short course two-wheel drives with the added downside, I would say, of the heavy roll cage, because, let me get this body off. Oh, there goes the body pin. As you can see, this is a full cage, so it adds quite a bit of weight. So, if I can get that back on. So, in corners it wants to lean and roll over a bit more. But it's a very fun class, and I would say this is one of my favorite classes just due to the look of the cars, and the racing at our track at least is very fun and not super competitive. So, the classes I didn't mention so far are buggy four-wheel drive buggy. So I'm just gonna move this back. Body pin. So four-wheel drive buggy is like a buggy, only it's four-wheel drive. So they are generally quite a lot more expensive. For example, the B5M, which is not this car, it's the newest generation of Team Associated two-wheel drive buggy, costs in the range of $240 to $260 as a kit. So what does that mean? That means it comes unassembled with no electronics, no tires, and an unpainted body, and you have to assemble the whole thing and put your electronics in it. So it's $240 to $260. The newest generation of four-wheel drive buggy from Team Associated is anywhere from $340 to $360. And that's not the most expensive four-wheel drive buggy there is. The most expensive, from what I've seen, is probably the Hot Bodies D413, which runs at about $430 as a kit. But again, that's a work of art being made mostly from carbon fiber and aluminum. So the benefits of two-wheel drive over four-wheel drive, or four-wheel drive over two-wheel drive, is four-wheel drive is a lot easier to drive because when you go into a corner, your front wheels are also pulling you in, as opposed to just having the rear pushing you. So you can drive it a lot more aggressively. So pretty much, with my four-wheel drive short course truck, it's pin it, brake, and then you get into the corner and you pin it, and then go. With a two-wheel drive, you go into the corner, you brake a bit, and then you go slowly. Because if you go too fast, then you'll just end up spinning out, which in short course is not as big of a deal, because you just drifted a bit. So two-wheel drive makes you a better driver, but you can't drive as aggressively, so you can't go as fast. So for the beginner, I would recommend either or, because there's benefits to both and downsides to both. Benefits of four-wheel drive is it's a lot easier to drive, so if you're just getting into it, it might be easier for you to get a four-wheel drive and learn off that. But two-wheel drive does make you a better driver. So what do I mean by this? It makes you feel the car. It's kind of hard to explain, but it makes you have finer throttle control as opposed to just pin it, brake. So I would say both are good entry vehicles, but I would not recommend a buggy for the first vehicle. I would either recommend I would probably go with a short course truck, and there comes that. Move that to the side. Sorry about that. I would recommend a short course truck for your first vehicle, just due to the fact that it has, you can see under here, bumpers in the front, in the rear, and it has this massive shell that covers everything. So whenever you crash, most of the impact goes to the shell, as opposed to either arms. In the buggy's case, either A-arms or, stuff like that, or most of the time it goes to the wing. But a lot of times it can, hit on the rear, front, or stuff like that, so there's a lot more opportunity to break it. Actually, mine is broken right here. Was just never able to finish the job, so I still race it and it works fine. But, so that's why I would recommend short course truck. Or maybe short course buggy, just because it is pretty much as durable as a short course truck, just with the exposed arms. So that's another topic, open wheeled versus closed wheeled. This is obviously closed wheeled because the wheels aren't sticking out. And this is an example of an open wheeled vehicle where the wheels are sticking out. So, benefits and cons of both. So the benefits of closed wheeled is that you can hit each other a bit more without having to worry about flipping over and stuff, because, when you hit someone, it's mostly to the body. Not that you should hit someone, but four-wheel short course gets fun sometimes. But, so that's a benefit. Also, if you clip a pipe, it's generally not as big of a deal because, it just kind of goes like that and then you keep on going. But the benefits of open-wheeled is that generally the racing's a little bit more competitive, if you can say that, I guess. Because if you touch wheels with someone, generally it ends up in flipping or something like that, so you have to be a little bit more precise. And again, it makes you a little bit better of a driver because you have to be more precise. But closed-wheeled is better for beginners just because there's not as much of a chance as you hit someone and break an A-arm or bend a turnbuckle or something like that. So I would, personally, if I were just getting into RC and I knew for sure I was going to race or go to the racetrack and, practice and then eventually race, I would most likely go for a show course truck and one of two of them. Either a Slash two-wheel drive, which I know it's not a race truck, but with some simple upgrades it can be a pretty decent one. For example, as you can see, this is a flat chassis that goes flat along the whole car. What the Slash has is it starts low on the front, and then the chassis rises up to about here, and then goes back down to the rear. What this does is gives you a ride height that's a lot taller than the SC10, which makes you want to lean because the battery and all the electronics are very high up, so it makes you want to lean in corners and flip a lot. What you can do to make that not happen is get the LCG chassis, which is low center of gravity. Traxxas makes one for $30, and it essentially changes it to something like this where it's very flat. That is the number one, no, actually I'd say number two, the second best upgrade you can do. The best upgrade is tires. Just get a decent set of tires for your track. I need to clean my tires, but that's 90% of your setup. If you can get a decent set of tires, then you should be pretty good. At my track, we run J-Concept Dirt Webs, aka Typos, and Electrons, Proline Electrons, which is actually what I have on each vehicle. So Dirt Webs, Typos, and on my buggy, I've got Electrons. So pretty much just find a tire that works. The way you can figure this out is if you have a really dusty track, what you want is something kind of like this where it's got bigger pegs, as you can see. That's just going to go down into the dirt and bite down and actually get traction from the hard dirt underneath. If you have a quite hard packed track, you want something that's a little bit lower with not as much, not as tall. So something like this would be quite good because it's not very tall and it's got a lot of little things. Then if you have a super high traction track, you might even want to go to complete slicks, but I probably wouldn't recommend that for a beginner. So just go to your track and see what everyone's running. And that's my best advice. At least at my track, most people are running the tires I mentioned before. But go to your track, see what everyone's running. Also, go to your track and see what part support is available. Because most hobby stores in America, and most hobby stores around the world, no, not around the world, but most hobby stores around in America at least, carry part support for Traxxas. That's one of the biggest brands, and most tracks have parts for them. So if your track has a lot of parts for Traxxas, but barely any parts for Team Associated, maybe you want to go to a Traxxas just because if you break something, there's more of a chance that you're going to have the part. And likewise, if your track has parts for Team Associated but not Traxxas, then go for the Team Associated. My track has both, and has a lot of both, so I go for Team Associated just because it's more of a race-inspired design. For example, on the Traxxas, you have only one position up here. Here you have three. You can move the shocks and fine-tune them. And the Traxxas is just a very heavy, the Traxxas Slash is just a very heavy kit, while this is lighter, and lighter means nimbler. So I would just go to your track and see what everyone's running, and then make your decision from there. But that's just my advice. If you want to run buggy, and that's what you want to do, then go find a buggy and race that. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I will be making a video more in detail of the differences between four-wheel drive and two-wheel drive. That should be coming soon, hopefully. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Bye.